So today I want to show you my top 5 tips for landscape photographers who use drones, or for those photographers that are considering adding a drone to their kit. I've used drones since 2019, starting with the Mavic, or the original Mavic, the Mavic 1 Pro, that used the Hasselblad camera technology. But before that, I've always been interested in getting up high for my photographs, and whether that's climbing on the roof rack of a car, climbing hills or mountains. I've made camera poles, 5 meter. I have a 5 meter extendable camera pole that I used to stick a camera on. So I was always aware of the power of drones, but it wasn't until I had a significant commission that I knew a drone would be really useful that I bit the bullet and bought my first drone. So let's have a look at some drone photography tips.
Takeoff. Home point updated.
So with 5 years of drone usage behind me, here are my top 5 shots for landscape photographers. Number 1, a little bit higher. Often you don't need to get much higher to get a more impressive view. The advantage of this is that the viewer can still put themselves into the landscape. It's not a bird's eye view, it's still a human view. Number 2, panoramas. Stitched panoramas are useful in drone photography for 2 reasons. Number 1, better resolution. Drones generally don't have the resolution of a mirrorless or a DSLR camera, but you can increase your effective resolution by stitching captures together. The DJI system has built-in presets for this and will even do the stitching for you automatically, or you can do it in post-processing, which is usually my choice, as the DJI app will only render a JPEG, whereas Lightroom or Photoshop can utilize the raw image captures. The second reason for panoramas is to get different perspectives from a single lens. You're generally more limited in your lens choice with drones. Often drones only have one lens, but by stitching images together, you can get unique wide-angle perspectives that you just can't get any other way. It's a different way of thinking about your image capture and gives you more options if you only have one lens. Number 3, the oblique or the straight down view. Although not unique to drones, drones are particularly well suited taking straight down shots. You can really get quite abstract, especially when using low-angled sunlight and shadows. Number 4, cinematic framing. Imagine positioning the camera anywhere, because this is just about what you can do with a drone. So this may mean putting something in the foreground to create some depth, or just thinking really creatively about what you want to include in the frame. Number 5, the bird's eye view. This is perhaps the classic drone shot. Get up as high as you can and look around for interesting views. It often pays to look for a high point to launch from. In New Zealand, we have a height limit of 120 meters for drones from your launching point. So I can launch from a hill and then fly out over a valley to get a really high perspective. So those are my top 5 shots. Let me know in the comments if there are any you think I should have included. In future videos, I will go into what drone camera settings are best for landscapes. I will also cover rules and regulations you should be aware of, and other drone capabilities you should be aware of also if you're going to invest in a drone. So that was my top 5 shots, but for a bonus tip, I want to talk about my essential accessories, things that I wouldn't really do without with my drone kit. So with my main drone, I have 3 batteries, 2 spare. It just gives me a really good working amount for a good amount of flying time. I can usually cover a sunset or a sunrise and get plenty of shots with that amount of battery power. The other things that I wouldn't go without are a decent carry bag. The carry bag that came with the Mavic 3 Pro is actually really good, and I can fit everything I need into it, including some filters. While we're talking about filters, the only filter I would recommend you'd get as a landscape photographer is the Polarising filter. It's just so useful for landscapes. Once again, it's a bit much to cover in this video. You can find plenty of videos about the Polarising filter, but if you just got one filter, that would be the one to get. Something else I always have is a landing pad. This is really useful for situations where the ground's a bit uneven, so it's hard to put the drone down on something and to get it launching well without the propellers getting tangled. They're quite cheap, very portable and light. The ones I prefer are these ones that fold up because they are very portable, easy to carry around. This one actually comes with 3 pegs, very handy if you want to peg it down on a windy day. So that's one accessory I wouldn't go without. As well as the soft backpack case, and there are many versions of this. Some backpack manufacturers make specialty drone case backpacks. The other accessory I have used a bit is a hard case, and this has been useful for traveling on airplanes or traveling where the drone may get roughed about a bit. This keeps it really secure, really safe. So the next essential accessory I would always carry is some spare blades. They're really quite cheap, and it's not uncommon to chip a blade if the drone accidentally tips over or hits a twig on a branch or something. So always carry some spare blades. It can get you back up and running if you do have an issue there. And the very last thing I would recommend you consider, but it is quite relatively expensive, is a dedicated controller. There are several advantages to this. One is that you get up and running much faster than if you're using a phone. I can get up and running in about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on the GPS finding. Whereas a phone, it takes several minutes to setting it up and working with it. Another reason is the screens on these dedicated controllers are much brighter in sunlight, so much easier to see what you're looking at and to frame your shots and work out your compositions. When you do get a controller, I would recommend also getting the sunshade for it. Really useful in bright sunlight, and this sunshade came with a strap as well, which is also useful. So if you can afford it, I would recommend upgrading to a dedicated controller rather than just using a phone. And the reason I have 2 drones, so my main drone is really my workhorse drone. It has 3 lenses, which is really, really useful if I'm doing commercial work or even just general landscape work. It has a telephoto lens, about a 180mm equivalent, a medium telephoto, around a 70mm, and a wide angle, a 24mm. So that's extremely useful. This drone is also a decent size, so it can handle winds and still stay quite stable. Yeah, just a very good workhorse of a drone, and that's the Mavic 3 Pro. The other drone that I purchased recently is a Mavic 4 Mini. And I purchased this because in Italy this year, where we travel to quite frequently, the drone laws have changed in that if you have a drone that's any heavier than the Mavic 4 Mini, you need special licensing, and it gets awfully complicated and expensive. But with the weight of the Mavic 4 Mini coming under 250 grams, You don't need all that special licensing. You do need to register the drone and have the number on it, but that's all you need to do. And then as long as I'm adhering to the other drone laws within Italy, I'm perfectly legal to fly that. And the good thing about the drone rules that have come in is they're EU-wide. So what works in Italy will also work in France or Spain or any of the other EU countries. This drone, being so light and small, it's also very handy for backpacking, or if I can't afford to take much weight, a really nice little package of a drone with a useful 24mm lens. The other thing about this lens, which is different to the Mavic 3, is the lens can flip from vertical to horizontal, and it just gives you more options for shots. So that was my introductory overview of drones and the shots you can get with them as a landscape photographer. I do intend to make future videos on the best settings for landscape photography for your drone. Also things like how to best learn the skills you need to fly a drone and operate a drone and use the camera, where to learn those things, and also how to be aware of the rules and regulations, because there are a lot that go with drones. And one last thing I do want to cover in future video is actually the video capabilities of drones, which are, if anything, bigger than their still capabilities. And if you're going to invest in a drone and all the learning that goes on with it, you really should take advantage of all they have to offer. So that's all for this week. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching.